last week we got an anonymous tip from a citizen that Mary Show was in town. We didn't know anything about him, so we started doing a little bit of research, found out he's wanted out of Ulster County, called and talked to the detectives there, got some background on his history and what he was wanted for. So found out that the marshals had also been looking for him, so we got in contact with the U.S. Marshals here locally, and our two agencies kind of came up with a plan to try and find him and get him in custody. It sounds like he got indicted for committing an armed bank robbery with a handgun at the Bank of America there back in 2010. And during his escape, he stole a car and set a barn on fire as some sort of a diversion to effect his escape out of the area. He was actually arrested the next month before they knew he was involved in the robbery, but he was able to escape custody and elude both the canines and the helicopter that were looking for him at that time. With his history and the way he escaped custody like that, we wanted to make sure we brought in the resources we need to get him in custody safely. Sure. Clearly, the charges were pretty violent. An armed robbery like that, where brandishing a handgun is a pretty traumatic event, definitely considered a violent act. And then arson is also a violent act. So yes, he's definitely had the propensity to violence. It's obviously something that we look into, but at this point, there's no indication that he'd done anything other than hide out here in town. Undercover officers in the area, basically we moved in closer and closer, and then when we had a good opportunity, we identified ourselves and took him into custody that way. No, he took a step like initially he was going to run, but I think he saw how many people that were there, and he gave up. He was compliant. He went down on the ground and admitted who he was and that he knew he was wanted. Yeah, there were quite a few people around. Initially there was surprise and shock, and then as soon as people understood there was the police that were there, they just stood back and kind of watched the show. We had about 15 people as part of our operation. Definitely more than we normally would, but with his history of escape previously, we wanted to make sure that we had the area well contained. Yeah, it sounds like he was using at least at this point, he was definitely using his real name. He said he didn't have any identification or anything, but he was using his correct name here. Talking to the detectives back in New York, I know at least initially he was using different variations of his name and different aliases at that time. But I don't know how long he's been using his name here, but at least at this point he was using the Jocelyn Mary Show name. Sure, so right now he's being held on what we call a fugitive from justice charge, and it's a state charge that basically says he's wanted in another state. So he'll have an opportunity to have a hearing, and the judge has to sign the extradition order before he's actually extradited back to New York. What we did is, at the beginning of summer, we started a street crimes team here as a trial basis to kind of just trial the team and evaluate whether it's worth the expenditure and resources. So we have 10 guys on the team, spread across 7 days a week. I'm in charge of all 10 guys, and so anytime we have something like this where we have someone we're looking for, or there's a known offender that's committing a lot of crimes, or a known location, then the street crimes team kind of zeroes in and takes a lead on that. So that's how we got involved with this particular case in Mr. Mary Show.